we are Team JIC here to present Eats Royale as part of our BC Dining case competition. Before we get started, I want to quickly take the opportunity to introduce ourselves and our diverse backgrounds. So firstly, hello everyone, it's lovely meeting you. My name is Junsoo. I'm an economics major, minoring in environmental studies, and I'm originally from Seoul, South Korea.
I'm Carter. I have a major in applied psychology and a minor in managing for social impact, and I'm from Hiram, Ohio.
And I'm Isvarya. I'm an environmental studies major and a biology minor, and I'm originally from Los Angeles, California.
Perfect. So working in two different dining halls last year, Lyons and Stewart, I learned the ins and outs of how BC Dining operates, how they utilize campus initiatives like Green to Go, Every Bite Counts, there's the Save That Stuff bins. We learned about Lean Path, just how to really minimize food waste at BC. And I also learned about the student perspective, how a student operates while in the dining hall quickly and conveniently. Next slide. Thanks. Here's a quote from Shanae Charles, a BC Dining cashier who works at Stewart, who echoes our, our feelings about BC's current practices. She states that not everyone knows about Green to Go, despite that it has advertised in TVs, in the trifold papers. We learned that the students notice their food, but they don't notice what's holding it. Every day, thousands literally of single-use plastic and even compostable containers get thrown out, while the Green to Go containers lay or stay left unused on that countertop. I also observed that I was unfortunately the only person that used Green to Go when observing the cashier during meals. And this begs the question, how can we revamp student-centered sustainability?
So the first thing that we looked at when we started investigating this problem was other dining halls that are regarded as being more sustainable than our own. The first one that we looked at was Yale's dining hall. Generally, as you can see, they have very similar sustainable initiatives to us. They focus on composting, sustainable food sourcing, and reusable dishes and cutlery. However, their difference is that they have a very strong incentive for students to use these programs by limiting their options, so they essentially don't have a to-go option in dining halls, which we found to be a little counterintuitive because it takes away student autonomy in their dining experience and generally just garners like a negative perspective towards being sustainable in the dining halls. And then the second program that we looked at was the Choose to Use program, very, very similar to Green to Go, however, it's much more widely used among the BU population. And the reason for this is that they incentivize their students by adding a $2.50 fee when they want to purchase a disposable to-go container instead of using their Choose to Reuse program. Similarly to Yale Dining, we found this had drawbacks. It uses negative reinforcement instead of positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement being deterring students by basically de-incentivizing the bad option by associating it with something negative. And then positive reinforcement, on the other hand, incentivizes students towards making the right choice while leaving their options open. So that they learn, basically like they're incentivized by a reward or something very positive associated with making the right choice, a sustainable choice in this scenario. And then as you can see at the bottom, these are surface level solutions, both of them, because they don't really incentivize students past the dining hall. It's just a one-time thing. You get a charge, you're just trying to avoid a charge, so you choose a sustainable option. So we found that there could be something better.
So our approach to problem solving was very simple. As I mentioned, we tried to narrow down our problems in the dining halls into three main categories, with the first being low awareness and enthusiasm among the student body when it comes to sustainability initiatives, band-aid solutions that provide short-term surface-level fixes that don't really address the core of the problem, and also those remaining operational costs from existing unsuccessful initiatives like the Green to Go bowls going to waste and inaccurate composting. And from here on, we sort of thought about how we can address each of these issues with a corresponding solution. So we found elbow room for heightening student engagement and encouraging participation, utilizing positive reinforcement rather than coercion, like Isa mentioned, to create lasting change and really change the perception students here have about sustainable dining, and also achieve financial feasibility by maximizing pre-existing BC programs. And the merging of these three solutions essentially became the root of Eats Royale. So Eats Royale is a game system that turns sustainable dining practices engaging and fun. So here's the game. Every time a student completes a sustainable action item, let's say using green to-go bowls or vegan, or getting like vegan menus, they are rewarded with points. We call these points chestnuts. Over time, students can collect chestnuts and use those chestnuts to get different prizes, different items at the dining halls, and etc. We'll get to the specifics later. So we have a little demonstration. I got a vegan menu and I used a green to-go bowl with it. I walk up to the cashier and notify the cashier. I got a green to-go bowl and a vegan menu, please.
Sounds good. It's going to be 15 chestnuts for you.
So once I tap the card, the chestnuts are logged onto the system. We have an application that shows how many chestnuts students collected over time and different opportunities they can use the chestnuts for. So we want to show you guys a quick user interface that our team created. Once students get on the Eagle Eats Royale app, they are guided to a homepage where they can see how many chestnuts they have, their rankings and the school, different BC dining news, and sort of like a sort of timeline showing how many more chestnuts you need to collect for different prizes. Now let's look at what sort of specific activities we actually reward. So if you click on the rule book, you can gain rewards for all sorts of activities like using green to-go containers. Let's say every Wednesday we have these the fresh stations sort of giving meals from locally sourced food stations. Those get 10 chestnuts. You can attend a sustainability related workshop on campus for 30 chestnuts, and there's a wide variety of range. We can also come back to these rule books. And in terms of what rewards students can sort of redeem from these chestnuts, we have a prize page. So let's say students collect some amount of chestnuts, they can purchase BC Bakery items, they can enter a weekly raffle with fun prizes like concert tickets or like cute toys like plushies. And over time, if students have enough chestnuts, they can even purchase items from different BC institutions across the university. For example, you can use chestnuts to buy items from the bookstore, buy tickets from the Rothschild Theater events or our
Athletic
events. We have a leaderboard function, which adds a competitive and fun edge to our product. So students can compete with each other in terms of how many chestnuts we collected, and at the end of the semester, the person with the most chestnuts can receive a fun prize. So this not only offers a cohesive sort of platform for students to engage with pre-existing BC dining solutions, but also adds a fun edge to it, engaging students and luring them in. And now Carter will talk about his favorite function, which is the camera function.
So another way you can earn chestnuts, not by actually checking out, is by composting. So, because the compost bins are not near the checkout area, we found it a little difficult until we came up with an idea to scan yourself actually composting, and then you submit it, you receive 5 chestnuts, and Ice is going to explain how we actually implement an educational system as well if people don't really know exactly what they need to be composting.
Yeah, so another thing that we found when we were surveying students, and also we've just observed generally, is that people don't even know what's compostable. We don't really have an education program in place when students first enter the school about what is compostable and what's not compostable, like in our dining halls, because we use very much the same things in every single dining hall. So here on the compost list, you can see a comprehensive list of everything that's compostable, and by including this, we kind of just merged together the fun aspect of uploading a picture of yourself onto the app and getting points with actually implementing a nice educational system for students to get a nice basis for correct composting, recycling, etc.
So,
Okay. And then you may be wondering at this point, how do we know gamification will actually work in the student body? There's been a ton of research done on how gamification impacts different markets, particularly the food retail market. So here I have Starbucks case study. Starbucks implemented their seasonal minigame several years ago, and they've had it on and off since then. They saw an increase of 150,000 new loyalty program members and a 30% increase in off-peak visits with the first implementation of the game. And then McDonald's had a similar experience, implemented a monopoly campaign that's been active for over 30 years. With the first initial implementation of the plan, they had a growth of 5.5% of profits in 1 month. And every single time that they've implemented the project since then, they see a growth in their sales from between 1 to 6%. And as you can see at the bottom here, I also did some research on psychology studies about how leaderboard systems or competitive, healthy competition impacts an audience or like a base. So basically, all the studies found that leaderboard systems increase customer loyalty in terms of food retail and markets like that. And we think that this is very applicable to a college audience where healthy competition is definitely fostered in the classroom. So why can't we apply it to our program?
So we had the idea and we began doing initial research, and a recurring question we constantly encountered during our surveys and interviews with dining hall managers was, if students can redeem chestnuts for prizes, wouldn't dining services incur significant costs? And we ran a hypothetical cost savings analysis and found that they would actually save. So the model goes as such. We calculated the unit cost of a compostable bowl used here at BC, and we ran a financial calculation, and we were able to find that in our hypothetical simulation, BC would actually save $15,650 per semester, if half the students on the meal plan used our application and began using Green to Go and existing sustainable solutions. We can come back to this model later for the Q&A. And another cost that we sort of considered and is often overlooked by initial projects is something called soft costs. And these are qualitative costs associated with training employees, educating students, and reforming the systems. However, we feel like these are long-term investments rather than costs. Over time, our thorough implementation plan, which we'll discuss later, will ensure a smooth transitioning into the use of the application, which wouldn't incur significant costs in the short and the long run, due to our digitization aspect as well. Due to the digital aspect of our product, we are cost effective, we are reducing physical materials, and we ensure scalability, which Carter will touch on later on. And like we mentioned in the hypothetical simulation, we are offsetting costs and operational costs associated with bulk purchasing single-use products, which is still an issue at BC.
Clearly, our solution depends on student engagement, and you may be wondering how we actually implement and scale. After speaking to Elliot Joe from the IT department, we actually learned that our solution is very practical because it can utilize an existing function that the cash registers have. It's called the refund function normally, but we can tweak it to add our chestnuts to it. Due to the nature, I just want to point out that due to the nature of our app being digital, it allows for constant communication / feedback, and then from there, frequent updates. Ensuring that our solution is, it fosters a sustainable community, while also ensuring pre-existing solutions. And, yeah.
As you can see in our Gantt chart here, the initial pre-launch stage is a stage where we're sort of gaining feedback and data from the students because of the digital nature of our product. It allows us to easily collect data, analyze them, and make quick updates in the rulebook, let's say, that sort of cater towards the specific needs of the students.
And then your question, yeah. Here we have a stakeholder analysis. So we identified 4 main stakeholders: Boston College students, Boston College dining, local smallholder farmers, and also the greater Boston community. Because in the case we wanted to focus not only on making a difference on Boston College's campus, but also instilling very sustainable values in students, which we feel has not really been achieved through Green to Go and other sort of surface level solutions. We feel that our solution, Eats Royale, will foster a much more sustainable community both on and off campus. Here, if I can just touch on a few of these. So I think one of the most important ones is if more students are engaging in just like BC Dining sustainable initiatives overall. We source a lot from local farmers when we do like the fresh campaigns or anything like that. And by getting more students engaged in the programs, we're supporting both local smallholder farmers and also supporting sustainable agriculture in the community overall. And then BC Dining will obviously gain more engagement with their programs. It'll bring more, if we have the news feature on the app, it'll bring more engagement with other culinary showcases, they call them, that they do monthly. Higher engagement and enthusiasm overall with dining among the student body. And then obviously solidifying sustainable behavior off campus and not just putting on these Band-Aid solutions when students are checking out.
And that concludes our presentation.
Oh, sweet.
the student engagement,
Thank
getting
you.
an app together. Competitive is the way to go, right? Engagement is the key, and so I think you certainly hit on not only engaging people, but doing it in a fun way, and making it competitive. So kudos to you guys for that. Can you just go back to the slide for financials for me, because I was trying to look at that one. It was a little fast for me, I was
Yeah,
really
sure,
going
yeah,
through
yeah,
it.
for sure, yeah.
What I did go through, I love, who did you meet with in dining? Did you guys meet with anyone in dining to get some, I mean, I know you worked here, so,
Right.
but where you got numbers and things of that nature?
I can actually answer that because I did
Yeah,
that.
go ahead.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
The unit cost of the compostable container that we found was actually from World Centric.
Yep.
We collected data through interviews with dining hall managers where we were sourcing these products, and we found that we were using World Centric products. So we got that. That was a bulk
Yep.
purchase of 300 products. Divided by 300, got the unit cost. Once we had that unit cost, we got on Get Mobile, which is a app that students currently use to order food, and we found the price of a jumbo cookie, which is right there,
Okay.
$3.69 at every dining hall at BC. And we ran a hypothetical simulation. If students were to use 85% of students, we got this from the BC Sustainable Report.
Okay.
If 85% of the students were to use dining meal plan, half of them were to use our Eats Royale program and were incentivized to use Green to Go, and they all purchased jumbo cookies with the chestnuts they collected. How much would they actually incur as cost? And we found that initial revenues from prompting students to use Green to Go and savings from Green to Go uses, because these are going to phase out disposable containers, the world-centric ones that we showed you, would actually be a net savings of $15,650.
You did a nice job laying it out, that's why I'm asking.
Okay.
And I know, I'll tell Mark Judd that he was in the presentation, he was thrilled. But no, you did a nice job in terms of the way that you laid it out and the things that you looked at. I think you focused on the right stuff. I will also give you kudos for in remembering things like soft costs. So where you talked about the training, and I also think that in terms of the launch, the timing that you did, you're very realistic, right? Everyone wants it to happen today. But you did a lot of things in there that are important. Nothing happens overnight, and I know it. I've been in dining for a long time. I want to make changes, and we haven't gotten there yet. But we're getting there, right? And we're getting better every day. So I think that the points that you guys did in your presentation were spot on.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thanks.
Yeah, I also really like this. It was a super fun idea. There, whenever you gamify something, of course, the natural worry is that someone will try to cheat the system. So it occurred to me that one way you might do this is so the part where you can take a picture of yourself composting.
Definitely.
There is a worry that here's what I'll
Yeah.
do. I'll just compost every individual thing. I'll take like 25 photos, and then I'll buy a bunch of stuffed animals that I'll ultimately throw away, and that's just like more garbage and more carbon, right? So
Yeah.
so now I worry. I mean, I think there's some easy ways to limit this,
Yeah.
but I was just concerned that somebody might gamify this to the point where now they're just accumulating shit
Yeah.
rather than reducing. But like I said, I think there's perhaps a
Yeah.
very easy solution to something like that.
We
No,
were
that's
thinking that for features like that, if they're very easily accessible, there could be a limit, like a weekly limit, let's say.
Yeah.
You get 5 chestnuts for that, but you can still submit the photos if you want to.
Yeah.
Maybe like, what I was thinking, I never actually talked to him about this, but for the compostable feature, if you had, let's say, one limit of one cache-in of that per week,
Yeah.
you could still submit those photos, and at the end of the month, the person with the greatest amount of compostable photos submitted would get a reward. Like, you wouldn't know you're standing on that, so you just be composting. And then that's a way to keep incentivizing students to compost, but also give them a reward
Yeah.
weekly.
Yeah, I like that. This is maybe not effective or helpful, but I was wondering even if you could tie it to people's dorm halls, whether or not you could get like the whole team involved, and maybe this adds yet another
Yeah.
layer
I
of.
can add on that. Actually, in the Gantt chart we had, so once we complete our pre-launch, like I mentioned, because we're offering a digital solution, it allows easy access to data and also easy implementation of updates. So we could have sort of seasonal tournaments among different dining halls, like Gabelli versus Vute versus 66, etc. To see which dining halls are the most sustainable. Obviously, you would have to factor in like, some dorms have more people than
Right,
other
kitchen,
people.
right.
So, but after accounting all of those factors in, we could even offer prizes for the whole hall, etc. So these are all opportunities that we can implement, and like you mentioned, that leaves us with so much potential. We can do all of these different tournaments, like different year levels even. These are all easy updates that we can implement. once we get pre-launch rolling, getting that sort of data and sort of feedback from the student body.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that gamifying things at BC works with the student body. You've seen it with athletics and the attendance at
Yeah.
games, so it's something that's been done and it's been done quite successfully.
Yeah.
I guess I have two questions relating to the app and to the chestnuts. What are the costs associated with building this app, and what's the time frame for the Gantt chart shows about approximately 6 months for app development? Is that realistic? How many people do you need? How much will that cost? And
Yeah.
Okay, so when we first decided we wanted to do a digital solution, I looked up on Google average cost for making an application. The minimum cost was what, $5,000?
Yeah.
$5,000. We felt that from BC's perspective, that's nothing. $5,000 is nothing, but from our perspective, that's quite a bit. So we thought about different ways that we can actually sort of use existing solutions and sort of student networks at BC to create this app. You may know, but I'm on the student board for the Schiller Institute of Science and Technology, and we're building a research website to give grants. And we're actually getting students from the CS department to come together and build on this application together. And we're not paying any of it. So so yeah, like although it may take time, and although we may not get like Apple quality applications, I feel like it's something that even brings students together. Like if you look at our UI, even like it's very pixelated. It's not very it's not like some crazy AI hologram, but it's still something that brings together students in a different way, and that was the point of our solution too. This is not just a dining solution, but it extends across the whole university. It starts with dining sustainability, but brings in students and, like you mentioned, stakeholders from different areas together. So I feel like that's another potential we can sort of look into.
Carter, I know earlier when you talked about working at BC Dining,
Yes.
you want to be efficient, you want to be quick, and that's great. For all of your cashiers right now, they have your point of sale system, the tablet, click, click, click. But from your opinion, what is the likelihood about getting your cashiers on board with that extra step? How much time will that take? Because at 12:50, as you're rushing to get to 1 o'clock class and when they want to arrive, you don't want to stand in line in the dining hall.
Absolutely, yeah. No, we thought about this for sure. Because we just didn't have enough time to run through the actual, procedure of how it works, I can do that right now. So it's the refund function that I mentioned is pretty quick. Like it's not a 2-tap and then tap your card. So it would obviously extend the time that every single person, spends at the checkout. But it really comes down to inputting a value. In this case, it's chestnuts. We were thinking about having a double tap system. So you would load the chestnuts first, tap, and then quickly, price your food as well. Right now it's super easy with all the buttons. I mean, I've worked as a cashier, and when there's a line of 15 people, it's very daunting. But I feel like that just comes with time. That comes with time from a cashier perspective. I was not equipped, in the first couple weeks, but yeah, everything comes with time. I don't think it really is I don't think it'll add 10 seconds per customer, right? I think it's at most a 3-second increase, 3 to 4 seconds, right, to load up the chestnuts. And then because the cashier is not, examining what chestnut or what, rewards you can get, the customer comes up and says, in this case, it was, I have a green to go and I have a vegan option. And then from there, I'm envisioning buttons on the side that say vegan, that say green to go, and then you can just input it there, a quick tap and then another quick tap.
I want to answer that super quick if you have time.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So I was at the RAD last night. I went up to the cashier and actually asked how this would work. The refund function is simple. You can not only inject money into the card, but it's basically a category, it's a menu item. So you can put, let's say somebody for whatever reason wanted to get a $20 refund, they would just put 20, as if they would put like a 20 like price tag for the food they got. Once the student taps, it goes in. So
Right.
what we're doing with these chestnuts is we're not making like a complicated application that counts these chestnuts through some crazy arithmetic function. We're actually just making a subcategory in Agora portal. The currency would still be dollars, but the units would be in chestnuts, if that makes sense. So it would say there's $200, but in the application itself, we would sort of interpret that as 200 chestnuts. So actually, sort of adding on to what Carter said, this might be a single tab.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
Okay,
It might be a
fair.
single tab
Yeah, we
thing.
have to
So
look into it more,
yeah,
but
because basically, if let's say I'm getting some, I don't know, like chicken with 2 sides and it's like $20, and I'm getting, I don't know, 5 chestnuts. In a single tab, that transaction can be made whereby I'm paying $20 for the entree that I got, and I'm also receiving $5, which would go under the chestnut category of my card. So once I'm actually using it, it would just go under 5 chestnuts.
Mm.
So in that sense, the sort of time lag doesn't really, it's not really significant. We did consider it, and
Nice.
we feel like it's a very easy solution.
Great. Well, thank you. We're out of time, but that was really awesome.